So you had mentioned earlier in the first segment that everybody at cleveland.com that covers the Browns regularly doing mock drafts from now until the draft in April. So let's take your first one. Round one, a little bit of a surprise pick here. You have the Browns going Malik Willis, quarterback from Liberty. And you mentioned big risk, an intriguing developmental prospect, a guy who's a dual threat guy. From Liberty, so you look at him as somebody that you need to develop. Just your thoughts behind Willis, and if he's sitting there at 13, how hard it might be to pass on if you're the Browns.
Well, first of all, let me say that this exercise that we're doing in terms of these 3-round mocks, we're going to have to be doing one every single week between now and the beginning of, now in the draft at the end of April. So when the other 3 reporters doing these mock drafts put theirs out, they all went with sort of what we would expect, and that would be a receiver in the first round, whether Garrett Wilson or someone else. So in the interest of shaking it up a little bit, I went with Malik Willis at number 13 because I had, recently come home from the Senior Bowl. I watched him operate. I watched the ball come out. I watched his athleticism. I watched him deal with people, teammates, family members, and I liked a lot of what I saw. So in the interest of this first mock, I figured, why not just throw him in there at number 13 overall, which I don't think would be the worst pick in the world, because if he does turn into something and you find yourself with 2 good quarterbacks, so be it. And if he doesn't, I think a quarterback is at times worth taking a chance on in the first round. You can recover from it these days. You don't have to pay these guys $70 million a year like you used to. So yeah, I think it's a chance worth taking. It's something that I would at least think about doing. Now, the bad part about it is the drawback, of course, is that you're not going to then be able to take your Garrett Wilson there in the first round. And that's probably the worst part about this option. So as I move along through the weeks, I might not stick with this, but for purposes of the first one, it's food for thought.
Now, you have the Browns trading back into the first round to answer the question of, well, who are you going to get at wide receiver? You have a trade with Philadelphia. They have multiple picks in the first round. And you have the Browns taking Jameson Williams from Alabama. And we've talked about torn ACL in the title game. So he's going to be ready close to the beginning of the season because he had the operation done. And by all accounts, if he's healthy, he's probably viewed as the number 1 receiver in this draft, at least really close to it.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's right up there. Now, is he, as good as a Jamar Chase or a Justin Jefferson in the previous couple of years in terms of being the best? Maybe he is. We'll see. He certainly seems to have the potential to be that. And so I just thought, this might be something kind of interesting. Come back in that first round and still get your receiver. And you might have to wait for him a little bit because he's coming off of a torn ACL. And you might have to wait a couple weeks into the season, a month into the season, but the payoff could be tremendous. Now, you're going to have some other guys. You're going to have to be able to go out and sign a couple of free agents. You're going to have to take a receiver, in the third round as well that you can plug in, pretty quickly. And maybe hope that Anthony Schwartz becomes a little bit more for you than what he was able to be last year because of injuries. And you have to hope that Donovan Peoples-Jones rebounds and, is a little bit better than he was down the stretch last year. So you have some pieces, but I think that this could be something interesting as well.
And then in the third round, you have D'Angelo Malone, edge rusher, linebacker, Western Kentucky. And that would kind of be a younger guy to potentially replace Tack McKinley, who was injured. What do you like about him?
Well, I was looking at this pick as more of the third edge rusher. Now, if this is not their number 78 overall pick in the third round, because they gave that up in this first mock to draft Jameson Williams. So this is the comp pick. It's actually almost like a fourth round pick. So it's late. It's between the third and fourth rounds, and it's in the 100s. And so I thought this was a good place to take that third edge. And this player does remind me a little bit of Tack in terms of, long, almost a lean, just edge rusher that can come in and do mostly that third down type of thing, and just really fast and explosive off the ball. And I thought that was a really good element, just that element of speed on defense. You really want that with so many of these speedy players now that they have on these offenses to counter with that type of thing. And that's what they liked about Tack. And I think they could get it with Malone.